time is 6:31, so we'll call the work session of mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, November 14th, 2022 to order. We do have a quorum. Gretchen is absent. All right, so first we'll go through the regular business meeting items. We've got the invocation, Pastor Trey Hildebrand of 12 Stone Church.
Yes.
The pledge.
I'll do it if nobody wants.
Watch. Ceremonial matters, we've got 3 proclamations. Small Business Saturday, there won't be anybody here to receive that. We're going to email it once it's all signed. And then we have a proclamation for the American Legion's 40th anniversary, and there will be some members of the American Legion here tonight to receive that. And then Kelly's going to recognize a couple board members that are leaving the stat board. We'll have the minutes. Lots of first readings. We've got the Britton Camp has come back. Is Jason? Has anything changed with what they're bringing back?
Some plantings around the detention pond.
And that's about it? Okay.
Jason, was it mentioned at all the idea of having them?
Yeah, I talked to him, he said it wouldn't work because of the topo, they can't get the water up there, because it's different. It's what they said. Because I think it'd be pretty hard to enter into an agreement with an adjacent property owner. to use
Okay.
the pond. But I did mention it
Okay,
twice, 2 people.
all right, as long as it was brought up.
Okay, and then we have, the UDO. Oh, that's on the signs. Okay. Then we have the master signage plan for the Grove.
They kind of go hand in hand.
Okay. So if y'all, once you look at those, if you have any questions, then, just check with Jason before the next meeting. And then we've got the special use permit for a drive-through restaurant.
Just the
Old
drive-through
Crystal.
portion of.
Oh, so the
No,
old
that's-
Crystal, is
no,
that where
that's-
this is?
No,
No, that's not where this
That's Dairy
is.
Queen, I think.
This is a
Oh,
Dairy
the
Queen.
Dairy
The
Queen,
old
that's
Crystal.
right.
Yeah,
we're talking about.
next
So
to
where are
the-
they, I was
Yeah.
trying to look that up, where are they
Yeah.
talking about putting a Dairy Queen?
Near
Next to
the
the Pet
Bruce,
Paradise.
yeah,
Yeah, it's down on that
on the
empty
other
lot
side of Brewster's.
Yeah.
on the
Across
south side of
the
78.
Pet Paradise,
124.
the little access drive.
Okay,
That's the only piece left from the Boulevards development, if you remember that.
yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
that's the last.
So it'll be a new build,
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah.
And
okay.
they don't need the SUP for the restaurant, but because it's in the town center for the drive-through, which was a change we made recently to make sure we were putting that back.
Okay,
So that's all they're really here for, is the approval of the drive-through. All the other stuff, the building is up to code now, they're not asking for any variance except a little building.
okay.
Isn't there some wetland issues with that property?
There's some creek buffers that you look on there, they're out of those. So just, that, this is a pretty major
Yeah.
tributary, but they're
That's-
setback, yeah.
Okay. And then the first reading on that's Park Place, right, Fars Road, to do the 3-story self-storage building.
Ronnie Jack back there.
So that's the first reading. So nothing on consent or old business. Under new business, we have the ratification of the election results. Any questions on that?
did I win?
No.
No.
You like
No.
drinking?
I would say.
No,
I
no,
would
I
say
cause
no.
people to drink, I don't drink.
Well, you're gonna be more successful than ever.
Then approval of the probation services agreement with Southeast Corrections. Any questions on that one?
That's just an administrative, nothing changes in our agreement, just an administrative need on their part.
And there is a,
$2
you might have noticed a
increase.
$2 increase. It's not a cost to the city because probation services, all of that
Okay.
cost is passed through the probationer. And then the update on the personnel rules and regulations. Did anybody, I didn't see any questions or comments come through. Everybody good on that?
It's just something that needs the mayor and council to vote on, pass it on.
And then we have the award of the bid for the Grove Pavilion. Woo. Any questions on that?
Came in fairly close to budget, and that number does include the bark wrap on the,
Oh, good.
not only the central post, but some of the
Branches.
outer parts, yeah. Not the posts, holding on the edges of the pavilion, but up in the, up for the roof. So it really will look good.
So if your choice is to approve that bid, then it would be to Build Line General Contractors for $658,720. Then we have the award of the bid for the annual resurfacing and paving for the year. And for those of you who have visited with Old Hickory Village, they will be very excited to see their streets on that list. I did email Shay today to let her know that it was happening. And if you choose to award that, that would be to Pittman Construction Company.
Have we ever used Pittman?
Yes, it sounds familiar.
We've not used
No.
them as far as in the city
No.
since I've been here for.
Yeah,
15 years.
I'm unfamiliar with
Snell
them.
has had the contract with the exception of 2 years ago, Atlanta Paving had the contract.
Okay.
We'll have to keep an eye on them. They did the 78 and 124 intersection,
That's where I know them from,
That's,
okay.
yeah, okay.
right?
It sounded familiar.
Well, it hadn't fallen apart yet, much.
And that award amount would be $1,408,826.50.
It's the 50 cents that kills you.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we just can't round up, but.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that in government. Then we have a first reading of an ordinance for the street racing and reckless driving. This is modeling after the county and and Grayson actually adopted this, the county's ordinance. Talking before in our meeting, Chuck has recommended that we postpone this for one meeting, table it to the November 28th meeting, because there's a couple of definitions that he didn't think were sufficient in that. So he'd like to,
You hired an old prosecutor, I'm gonna pick it apart, so.
just to make sure that there's no
We'll
less,
hold up better.
fewer holes, were we to make some arrests under this.
Yeah, on page 1 of that, number 6, under section 38-160, it says, an individual is stationed at or near one or more motor vehicles serving as race starter. Could we put, or filmer or whatever, because a lot of what we're seeing across the country is people are videoing these things for TikTok or,
I think that's included as part of participants.
Yeah.
right, but it sets forth, if this happens, if
Yeah.
there's a person out there as a starter, then it is one of the things the police can use as, oh, then we can use this ordinance. So filming it would also be a good way to denote that it is a demonstration of speed or whatever. Reckless driving exhibition.
That's one of the problems, is there's no definition of the reckless driving portion, so.
Toyota vans are gonna be excluded, so you're good.
There's no way to put the word annoying in there.
I'm driving a Honda now.
Oh, wow, wow.
That's not a move up.
Melissa has asked for an exemption for city employees.
I'm sure she
Not
has.
just.
And their relatives.
Have we heard anything about how other cities or other areas are able to enforce this?
I think it's too new.
I don't know the results of it. I do know, I just read that, there were several incidents that happened in, I think, DeKalb. I think over this past weekend, that the Georgia State Patrol was able to head off a lot of it and made a lot of arrests. And it was some gatherings that happened in, I think, 2 or 3 different places in DeKalb. And they were able to stop it and make the arrest. Now, I would think that once the arrests are made under this, it's gonna be a matter of, once it gets to court, you know, whether the judges are gonna uphold it.
And have our law enforcement officials
Yes,
given us
Greg.
some feedback? Okay.
Greg was.
Yeah, well, I sent it to Greg and said, this is what I heard, you know, that everybody was doing, and he responded back like almost
That's great, yeah.
immediately, that was
Right.
like,
Adopt it.
can we
Yeah.
put it on the next agenda?
And I think it's great, their definitions just need some tweaking,
Right.
that's all. That,
Gotcha.
in general, it's good. I just think one of the big things we want besides the racing is the drifting
Yes.
and the spinning and people getting
Yes.
hit by cars with that. And I don't think
Yes.
that's really, although it's in the title, I don't think the language makes that part enforceable, so it doesn't define it.
And I've noticed on our roundabouts,
Yep.
they have tire marks
become a
around the
challenge.
skirt as they sit there and do donuts around it. On the apron part, not on the roadway.
It's not good for it.
Probably not.
That'll all be cleaned and coated. I don't know if y'all have been through the roundabout on 84 going to Grayson.
Yeah.
It'll be coated like that. It will be cleaned up and
Can we have spikes?
it'll last a week or two.
I was just gonna mention that.
Spikes or maybe, every,
Snipers, maybe?
yeah.
That
That'd be
work too.
We've got plenty of height, but
Yeah.
sharpshooters.
All right, where did I, lost myself here. And then I'll be asking for your confirmation of Norman Carter to the Board of Appeals. And then we have approval for the Welcome to Snellville, the gateway sign down at Scenic Point on Scenic Highway, the new development by Ronnie D. Thomas. I think all of that was in there. Anybody have any questions on that? It's essentially the same sign that was put at the Thomas Car Wash. Okay. Okay, we good at the meeting?
Yep.
Any correspondence?
No, ma'am. All in my report.
City attorney's report?
I think we just have a couple things. One, just give you an update. Jason and John have given us some guidelines they want us to finish reviewing. It's the ball on the build to rent subdivisions. So that's in our court, and we'll have that ready for a report for the next meeting. And I have 2 items if we have time for an executive session. They're not dire if we run out of time tonight, but if so, there are 2, both litigation related. And then, Jay, did you want, I think, you just want to give a quick update on alcohol ordinance?
We can do it when we get to it in here.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. I think we're good.
Okay, then Butch,
Going down through the list, Hodges and Hicks, they're making great progress on the Grove work. You can see a lot of paving going on. We've been down there with Michael Kidd and his associate, making sure things are in line. Jamal, yeah, I think you guys saw the LOI. He should sign the lease this week. It's been updated, the numbers have been updated, so things are looking good there. The VE work is ongoing on the second floor. Hopefully, we'll have a report back at the end of this week, but there will be some savings to the city on the second floor, pretty substantial. The OMSHIV is back on the job. You probably noticed they poured a lot of a lot of sidewalk and curb and gutter on Oak and on North. They do not have any concrete coming this week. They're gonna start back next week with concrete pouring. And the Tomlin folks will be moving in. They've moved it back past Thanksgiving, so the first residents will move in on December 1. Everything should be ready for them by then. Sidewalk improvements. Great news from the county on financial assistance. We have stayed in regular touch with the county DOT about these projects, and we kind of worked with them. They, in the past, have always just provided some contractor work, either internally or through a sub. And that makes it very difficult logistically for, if we did the underground work, and then how long would it sit there before they could come in and pour sidewalks and curb and gutters? So our conversations have been successful in that they are going to provide only financial assistance, and that financial assistance will be in the amount of $800,000 for the two sidewalk projects. That gives us some flexibility to do some other things with that ARPA money, but the relationship that we've built with them over the years is really paying off, I think. Regular meetings with county DOT about funding and plan review. Very close to final approval for the plans. The bid should go out in December. Right now is what we're looking at. Neighborhood beautification. Our citizens panel has done just a great job. There's an item on the work session where there'll be a report tonight and a discussion. I attended the first two. Matt attended the second two meetings, and we're just very appreciative of the time y'all have given to that important subject. And I need to say something nice about Rick Jarvis back here too.
We don't have to.
Attended all the meetings here tonight. Is going to be a good partner with us as we move forward. And Public Works really has provided the leadership in this area, and I think we're going to have a much better service when we after the report, your discussion, and some decisions that the mayor and council will be tasked to make. Zoning category review, the town center signage on for first readings tonight. Very important to keep that moving. Any zoning category issues are going to come up with applications, and we'll address those as they arise. Package sales referendum. The referendum passed pretty handily. Didn't have a lot of voters, but work to begin on the final version of the ordinance. I guess we don't really know. There's been a lot of interest. When will the application be ready, and what can we do? And so I think Jay might have a little update on that.
Yeah, from our last discussion, I updated the draft ordinance to take out in the shopping center, so it's got to be a freestanding building of 10,000 square feet. I found one typo and I changed that too, but that was the only change that I sent out last week. It's really when y'all want to start the application process, the way the ordinance is written, y'all have to basically call for application. So there's not it's not January 1 or anything. And you can call one at a time, you can call both at the same time. It's kind of up to y'all. So it's probably just discussions y'all need to have now that it's passed, it's getting a little more pressing.
Yeah. Melissa had asked a couple weeks ago about, we need to get some samples of applications. You may as well start with some other cities, what they used as far as their application form is, so that we can review that and make sure that we're gonna require, whatever anybody's gonna want to be able to consider as a qualification, that's included in that application. So we probably need to plan on having that done and ready in, say, mid-January. And then in my mind, I'm thinking at least 3 to 6 months before we're ready to make the application available, and then, deciding how much time we want to give people to submit. before we're ready to, actually get them all in and check the qualifications and then do it. Anybody have any idea what you have in mind? What are your thoughts for a time frame? So I'm thinking like,
Really think about it.
yeah, because we're at the end of, or mid-November, and we've got the holidays coming up now. Honestly, not a whole lot's gonna get done between now and then. Maybe we can get the application shined up.
I would think we'd
next
want
June.
to have the application pretty much fleshed out before we adopt the ordinance, because we want to make sure that whatever's on the application is mirrored in the ordinance, because I noticed there were some things that had come up in conversations that aren't in our ordinance, like financials and that sort of stuff, which, so.
Okay.
I think that just gives us a better leg to stand on in the application process if they mirror each other very well.
Okay. Anybody else have anything like thoughts in mind or expectations? If
No,
not, we'll just
I
set
think we just
something.
need to, as Todd said, we just make sure everything meshes. I would think 3 months could get that done.
All right, well, let's go ahead and shoot for the end of January to have the ordinance ready to go on, because it'll take 2 readings.
Right.
To have the final vote on the ordinance and have the application ready. And then at that point, or during that time, we can decide, because too, we may want to allow a little bit of time, if we put the applications out, make them available, say, February 1st or February 15th, does it make sense to give a respondent 2 months to, in case somebody's just getting it then, waited till everything was finalized before they started looking for property or, all of those pieces. So maybe we put the application out there, but not actually accept or receive any applications for a period of time,
60 or 90 days.
60 or 90 days. And then once we get them in, then we need a couple weeks to go through and make sure everybody's qualified
Right.
before we do the lottery.
I know it's been such a long process, we've discussed which zoning categories they will be in. At one point, I know we discussed excluding them from the town center overlay district. Am I the only one who remembers that?
I
think
don't
we-
know I think we
We deci-
sat on just the locational standards.
Okay, all right.
And then BG, right, or HSB?
It's BG and HSB.
Yeah, on those corridors, so there could be potentially some,
Okay.
but not in it.
And you could always add an exclusion in the downtown area.
Yeah, it's just, that's not, that type of retail isn't necessarily what we want in our town center.
No.
Yeah. And there was, a lot of the discussions I've had with other people in the industry was too, that you wouldn't want it in that area, and I think the developers kind of feel the same way. Yeah. So we might want to maybe do a little circle around or something of where it wouldn't be allowed.
It's just something for everybody to talk,
yeah,
think about.
think about. Okay. All right, we kind of good?
Yeah.
What we need to do?
Okay.
Okay?
Rehab work ongoing at Cobblestone. I've attached to the update several pages. The first 2 will give you a little more in-depth reading on the town center roadway improvements, Wisteria and North, the sidewalks, and what's going on at Cobblestone. So read through there at your leisure and call if you have any questions, but it kind of fleshes out some of the items that we talk about in the update. A lot of discussions ongoing about the surrounding Grove area. We wanted to attract interest, and I believe we're doing that. Nothing really to report at this time, but a lot of interest. Briscoe Park progress. The next meeting, November 28th, we'll have construction awards for the maintenance building. The design and all the pricing has been worked out. We'll bring you a full budget update there. we're working with the CDBG program requirements on lake wall repair. The low bidder, very good price from Bailey Construction in Covington. They're having trouble with their subs getting qualified with all of the federal paperwork that's necessary. We're working with them. Hopefully we'll be ready to go and have a good report on the 28th. But we're trying to make sure that we meet all the CDBG requirements, because it's if you don't, and somewhere along the line we slip off track, then we would owe all the money back. So we can't let that happen. North and Wisteria, continuously working with the county. They are looking at the 90% plans. Talked to Larry Kaiser. He will be here on the 28th for the work session at 6:30 to review final right-of-way plans, because we're about to start purchasing right-of-way. So a little more in-depth information attached, and if you have any questions, just let us know.
Okay. All right, so the next item we have is the recycling committee recommendation. I think, was the recommendation included in the?
It was sent separately.
Separate, okay. So tonight, before I call, Doug Guy was kind of unanimously and unintentionally selected to give the presentation tonight. It'd be short. Just kind of walk through the recommendations and how they came to that. But before we did that, I just wanted to recognize the 7 citizens that we had on this committee. It was Deb Heath, Selena McCarthy, Doug Guy, Catherine Morgan, Ramona Toole, Tammy Davis, and Judy Peavy. And as you all know, all of you selected people to put on this committee, and Solange attended almost all the meetings as well. And this group of people has just really been phenomenal. I mean, it was nice to have just blank slates to start with so that we could give them a good idea. The first meeting we spent talking about the industry, and we had Walt Ritter from Waste Management and Rick Jarvis from Latham, who does the residential sanitation, talked about the recycling industry and the sanitation industry. And we had a lot of great support from Craig and Butch and Matt in all of the meetings as well. It's just been, it was really a great experience, I think, with the 4 meetings that we had, and everybody just gelled together, and the discussion was really good and really healthy. So a big thank you to the committee first, and I'd like to call on Doug Guy to just kind of walk through the recommendation and kind of how they all came to this.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the city for allowing us to do this. I think it was an excellent committee. We had people that have been in the city less than a year to people that have been here over 40 years on the committee. So it was a good cross-section. We have all been here before we had recycling at the curb and after we've had recycling, and we all agreed, I think, speak for them, that 20 years is a pretty good time to see if it's going to work, and unfortunately, the curbside recycling is not working. And that's kind of what the conclusion was we came to. So our recommendation is that we discontinue the curbside recycling, but you take things away from people, you got to give them an alternative. The alternative is they can, if they want the convenience of having curbside, thanks to Rick and his crew, they can have it. It's going to cost them $12 a month. So if they're a dedicated recycler, I don't think you'll have any trouble. I think everybody in the room, we're all dedicated. We all said, that's no big deal. And the mayor said you can either put it on your property tax, or I guess what, pay it one time and not put it on your property tax. But there'll be no payment plans or anything like that. We kind of decided that. So you got your copy here. The only other thing I can say to you is good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug. So we'll open the floor. Feel free to ask either, we've got Ramona Toole here,
Yeah,
Deb Heath,
and Jesse.
and of course Doug, you met. Was anybody else from the committee here?
No.
Yeah. So if y'all have questions for the committee on how they came up with things, or if you just want a little more background tonight, or if you just want to take the recommendations and read through it, and we can put it on the next work session agenda. You have questions?
I know one of the issues that's come up is the 65-gallon recycling bins keep getting used as trash cans.
Right.
So we're just gonna assume that if they're gonna pay for it, hopefully they'll be good, and if not, at least they're paying for us to throw it away.
Yeah, well, so here's kind of how we came to all of that. If, I say we, I let the committee know, I want you all to know this too, that we discussed at the very beginning, and I reiterated at the end to the committee, that this was a recommendation that they were bringing to the council, that this had no bearing on what finally comes out. I mean, it will have some bearing, it gives you food for thought. But that does not mean that this is what the council will decide, because obviously there's a lot of things everybody's gotta consider when making a move like this. But, so what, Rick has been great support in explaining to us, and Grayson just did this. Grayson stopped all curbside recycling, and people could opt in, and they pay upfront for 1 year, and there's no prorations. If they quit in the middle of the year, it doesn't matter. But it's not the 18-gallon cart bin. If someone chooses, under this recommendation, if someone chooses to pay for it, they would get a 65-gallon roll cart, just similar to the trash can. And their curbside would still be picked up weekly on their same trash day, so nothing would change as far as that goes. But they are most are going from the 18-gallon to the 65-gallon. If there is trash in that cart, then it won't get picked up, and Latham will call the resident and let them know their cart wasn't picked up, and this is why. They could either remove the trash or just not recycle. In Grayson, we do the blue bags. If you have excess trash outside your 65-gallon cart, we have where citizens can buy the blue bags and put the extra trash in those. Grayson allows for someone to pay for a second 65-gallon or second, they use 95-gallon. They use 95-gallon carts to begin with. We have 65-gallon for trash. But people can pay for having a second 95-gallon or 65-gallon, whatever we're using, trash cart, if they want. We've got the blue bag program in place. It works, so we may choose not to do that on the sanitation side, not change anything on the sanitation side. But what this does, and what the committee heard firsthand, and I think most of you are aware, but just to make sure, that what's happened in the recycling industry is, we used to get paid to take recyclable materials, and now it is costing us to dump recyclable materials, to the point we used to get paid our rebate was about $35,000 to $40,000 a year is what we would get. Now it's costing us $100 a ton, $80 a ton to dump it.
Twice as much as garbage.
This is recycling materials. Also embedded in the recommendation is if someone chooses not to pay for curbside recycling, we have a state-of-the-art recycling facility. And Craig will attest that we've seen an uptick in people bringing things to our recycling center with Grayson's discontinuation of free curbside recycling. A lot more people are bringing their stuff to the recycling center.
Yeah, well, the committee was we all love our recycling center. I mean, it's a state-of-the-art, it's a jewel that the city has that nobody around us has. We all talk about. We saw it grow from, the a little spot in the back of the park to what it is today. It's just amazing. We just all, that we support 110%, I
Yeah.
think, as far as.
And one of the other ideas that came out of it too was, you know, a lot of it's education, and to put on the carts a really large sticker with pictures of what can go in there. And that should help. And then, but Rick will attest too, that in Grayson, if someone's paying for this service, they're gonna do it right. And they have very little contamination in their
And also,
recycling
you're
program.
talking, unfortunately, we're really talking 20% of our residents are recycling.
A
Is an
lot are-
estimate.
Yeah, and right now, the cities, if someone calls, under our current structure, someone calls and requests a 65-gallon recycling cart, we give it out for free. And that's where we're seeing even more of the contamination, because, you know, as Rick will say, a kid goes out to empty the garbage, oh, that can's full, I'll just put it in this other one. You know, people aren't paying attention. Or they're just using it as a second trash can. So that's kind of how everything kind of germinated and came up. And of course, education and getting information out would be key and vital in this, and using a lot of avenues to do that. So that's the committee's recommendation. So why don't you all stew on that for a little bit? We'll put it on the work session agenda for next year, for the next meeting, so that we can flesh out anything else. But of course, in the meantime, go ahead and email if you've got other questions or concerns, or things occur to you, so that we can have a little discussion.
In making this change, if we were to move forward in making this change, time-wise, how would we handle this? Because our billing has already gone out for this year. So,
Rick and I talked about that.
And then Butch and I talked about it too. We would just get paid in arrears. In other words, you get it for a whole year, and then if it's 10 months, 9 months, whatever, that's what we would just get paid in arrears.
In a sense, it probably, if it is, say, 20% of our customer base, it'd be very difficult to bill on tax bills. We would just they would have to come to Public Works, write us a check, we'll put them on the list, we'll notify Rick will deliver a can.
Or figure out how to do it online.
Yeah.
or do it that way, and then if we need to put it on tax
Yeah.
bills for next
Then
year.
how do we?
But, you know, talking to Rick, I think best case scenario, notifying everybody that there's going to be a major change in recycling. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to make it easy on you folks who really want to recycle. And, you know, we're looking at the spring. I mean, it's going to take a while to get everything out there and get organized there.
Right, I just didn't want it to wait till next fall.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I mean, and I tried, as the committee goes and their recommendation, we kind of told them, don't worry about the practical side of things. We would work that out based on the direction everybody wanted to go in.
It would,
But
if it
we
was
have
going on
talked
the
about
tax
a few
bills,
things.
obviously it would have to be next fall. So we can do this 6 months earlier.
What do we do with the existing 65 gallons that people aren't paying for?
They'll get picked up. The 18 gallons, Rick said, everybody
That's
can
not a
just keep
problem.
them.
Yeah.
Well, the 18-gallon come in really handy. I don't put anything out at the
They
curb
don't stay.
because I'm on Pinehurst and Lord only knows what would happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to put his guys in jeopardy. Plus, I know we get paid for it when I separate it and put it at our recycling center. So I use those bins because I've collected a bunch of them, to separate out my recyclables. And when they get overly full, then I drive them over to.
And y'all would keep those.
Recycling center. Right.
We talked about that night, that all the 18-gallon bins that have been distributed from day one will stay with the residents. The only thing we'll go through and collect are the 65s.
Right.
And then,
But if we decide to go forward in our marketing, it would be good to say, you get to keep that bin to
Right,
help
right.
you with your recycling. So,
A lot of positives there.
yeah.
Okay? Cool. So, great work by our recycling task force. Okay, and I think, I'm getting mixed up in my papers here. We are done with the work session. We've got time, so we'll go ahead and do a quick exec session. During the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Bender announced that certain matters should be discussed in a closed session of the meeting and asked council to advise the city with respect to closing the meeting. City Attorney Chuck Ross advised the city of the following reasons to close the meeting.
John, stay.
Prayers for Tammy.
To discuss pending and/or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative
Well, that was easy.
proceedings, or other judicial actions which
Stood
is
up and
exempt
said
from
it.
the Open Meetings Act pursuant to OCGA Section 50-14-21. That's it. Upon a motion, a council member,
Emmanuel,
seconded by council member,
Lansky.
the meeting was closed and the following council members and mayor present and voting. Mayor Barbara Bender, yes. Mayor Pro Tem, Dave Emanuel.
yes.
Solange DeSantis.
Yes.
Christie Linsky.